Well, happy September. Today I am sharing my August monthly reading wrap-up as well as some favorite things. Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. I just wanted to touch base with you on what I've been reading over the last couple of weeks in August because I have not been able to post a weekly reading update. Instead, I had a couple of other tag videos and some other things I needed to post, so I had to kind of move some things around and wait on updating you. And really, when it was time for a weekly reading update, I really wasn't quite finished with one thing or another, so it worked out better for me to do it this way. Today, I'm just going to share with you some of the other books that I finished reading at the end of August, as well as some favorite things. And one thing that I was definitely a favorite for this month was I received some more book mail just a couple of days ago, and I was really excited about that. Now, this isn't a book, but it was on my wish list, and it is this beautiful puzzle. Isn't that the prettiest thing? And I can't wait to work this puzzle. And you know, when my husband came in from the post office, he was like, did you order another book? And I said, no. So this was inside. It says, hi friend, love your channel, and I'm so glad we have similar taste. You've mentioned enjoying puzzles while listening to audiobooks, so hopefully you enjoyed this one. It's so cute. Lots of love, Miriam Elizabeth Reads. And so I was so excited to receive that from Miriam. Miriam is my new BookTube bestie. We have just discovered that both of us love the same books. We have a lot of similar book tastes. So if you enjoy my channel, I know you'll enjoy her channel. I will leave a link to Miriam's channel below. Make sure you go over and say hello to Miriam. But thank you, Miriam, for sending this to me. Yes, I do love to listen to an audiobook while working a puzzle. That's always fun. My son enjoys working puzzles too, so he'll be excited that I received this one. So thank you, Miriam, for that wonderful surprise. It just brightened my day. So that was one thing that happened this week that I was really excited about, and I didn't want to forget to mention that. And then I read a few books over the past couple of weeks that I wanted to talk to you about as well. The first one that I finished was for the summer book bingo, and it was Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. I had this on my list of classics to read. Now, I consider this a children's classics because it's in this Puffin Classics edition. But was this a children's classic back in the day? I don't know. An adult certainly would enjoy reading this. To me, it reads more like an adult read, but it's certainly adventurous and fun. This one is about a man who places this bet that he can go around the world literally in 80 days. And so you follow him as he goes along on this trip around the world. And of course, this is in the 1800s, so it's a little more complicated then because we're not flying in an airplane. So it was a little more complicated to travel around the world in 80 days. Now, I was surprised at how much I did enjoy this because I wasn't too sure what I would think of it. I had decided to read it because there is a David Tennant series out that is an adaptation. It's a mini series, I think. So I want to watch that, of course. But I really like the adventure on this. When he's going along, and when he gets to a certain destination, his stops along the way, there's an adventure that takes place. So each chapter is kind of like a new adventure. It's sort of an Indiana Jones kind of feel to it. Super adventurous, and dangerous things are happening, and you learn more about him as a character along the way, because at the beginning you're not too sure if he is the criminal that they think he is at the beginning or not. And I don't want to say too much about that, but anyway, that's how he is perceived in the beginning, so you're trying to figure that out. But along the way, you learn more about his character and all the little things that he gets into along the way, all the people he meets. And I loved the ending. The ending was perfect. So I enjoyed reading this classic, and this was I think I used this for the classic on the summer book bingo card. And then I read The Shell Seekers, and this was for the over 500 pages. This is The Shell Seekers by Rosamund Pilcher. I have wanted to read this ever since I read Winter Solstice last winter. Rosamund Pilcher can tell a story. There is no doubt about it. I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm just wrapping a warm blanket around me, or I don't know. It's just something about her writing that is so comforting to me. When she tells you a story, you feel like you are there in the midst of it. And when she describes a room, you know, a lot of times you'll read these stories where they describe the room and they just go overboard. Well, she gives you just enough detail, and the way that she describes it makes you feel you're there. And it's a lot of coziness. So if you like cozy, feeling kind of books, I think you will enjoy Rosamund Pilcher's writing. And it's a page turner. Even though it was over 500 pages, it doesn't feel long. Same way with Winter Solstice. It was a pretty chunky book too, but you don't feel like it's long. And it's a page turner. That's what I want to say about that. This book, it wasn't my favorite like the Winter Solstice was. Winter Solstice was a 5-star read for me. This one was really good and I enjoyed it. And from the beginning, you start with the main character. I think her name's Penelope. Is that her name? Yeah, Penelope. You're learning about Penelope's life, and at the time the story starts, Penelope has had a heart attack, and she just checks herself out of the hospital, even though she doesn't need to leave yet. And she goes home without telling her grown adult children that she has left. And so when she gets home, she calls one of her daughters to let her know that I'm fine, I just checked out and I'm doing great. I think she's like 64, 65 at the beginning of the story. As the story continues, we go back in time and learn more about Penelope. We learn about Penelope, we learn about her 3 children, we learn about other people in Penelope's life. The reason that this one was not a favorite was because I didn't like the characters, unfortunately. She has 3 children, 3 grown children who are brats. They're adults, but they act very childish. The way that they respond to Penelope, their mother, is just selfish, and they don't care about anyone but themselves. The choices that they make are selfish. I mean, they don't care about suffering the consequences, pretty much. So from the get-go, I did not like her children at all. Even the one that she tends to, I don't want to say is her favorite, but really she is her favorite. That her favorite daughter is still, I didn't like her either. I didn't like her choices. I didn't like the way she led her life either. So I really just couldn't, I don't know, I just didn't care about those characters. However, as I said earlier, Rosamund Pilcher can tell a great story, so I was interested in the story and wanted to know more as we continue. It's called The Shell Seekers because there is a famous painting that she has in her, I guess her living room, Penelope has had, and it's her, I think it was her grandfather's painting or her father's painting, one or the other. And once he passes away, he becomes this sought after, his art is sought after, and it becomes pretty pricey after his death. And so there is an argument with the children over this artwork, and the Shell Seekers, that particular painting is in the center of all of that. So they're arguing over the money part instead of the meaning behind Grandpa's artwork, basically. So I didn't like how they were going about that. But Penelope, I was rooting for her from the beginning. However, once I am back in the past, in Penelope's life, I really didn't like her choices either. So no one in this story makes good choices. And that's why it was brought down for me. as a great read, yes, it reads like a soap opera from the 80s, and I think it was written in the 80s, so it reads like that. It's not dated in the 80s, but it reads like one of those sensational soap operas. So if you want something that is a page turner that reads like a soap opera, I highly recommend The Shell Seekers. I did enjoy this read, but again, I had higher expectations for it, and the only reason was because I just didn't like these characters and I didn't agree with their choices. So anyway, I could say a lot more, but if I do, I might spoil some things for you, and I don't want to do that. So The Shell Seekers was another one that I read for the summer book bingo card. Then I read a book that Krista from Books and Jams had talked about a couple of times on her channel, and my library had it, so I checked this out from the library. It's called All 13, The Incredible Cave Rescue of the Thai Boys Soccer Team, and it's written by Christina Soontornvit. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it also has a couple of awards on the front, including a Newbery Honor Award. This is a true story about the Thai boys who were a soccer team. They went into a cave, and while they were in the cave, they were trapped there with their coach for days. And it's about the rescue. And it was one powerful story. I loved this particular retelling of the story because there's great pictures, real pictures of all the rescuers, and there are diagrams. There's even some other things in here because this is for children. This is a middle grade book. There's also in here some little extras, like I know one of them was like meditation, and it talks about, because these kids are Buddhist, so it talks about their meditation. And then there's like this one that says rules to dive by. So there were all these little extra things throughout the story that weren't part of the story, but just things that pertain to cave diving or their religion or things about their community. So those things were super interesting too. So it added a lot to the story. This was amazing, and I cried in this because it's a beautiful story. And really what was so heartwarming about the story was so many people came to the rescue. So many people from all over the world. It was amazing to see how many people contributed to rescuing these children and their coach from this cave. So I highly recommend All 13, 5-star read. After I finished All 13, Krista had mentioned that there was a documentary and a movie of this, and I watched the one directed by Ron Howard. I will leave a link to that below. That was fantastic as well. So my husband and I watched that the day after I finished All 13. So I enjoyed that too. And then I read another Agatha Christie, The 7 Dials Mystery. This was a great one. This was a 5-star for Agatha Christie. Now, I rate my mysteries different than I rate other books, and for an Agatha Christie, this was definitely a 5-star. I read The Secret of Chimneys first, and I'm glad I did because this one takes place in the same house as the murder in The Secret of Chimneys, or whatever it was called. So this one is The 7 Dials Mystery, but they both of the cases take place at the same house, the same estate, if that makes sense. So that made it even more interesting because there are some things in here that kind of related to the one from the Secret of Chimneys. So I just found that to be fun too. I will say that when I read The Secret of Chimneys, I was so surprised at the character development in that one. Well, the same thing happens in this one. So I don't know when she wrote these exactly, but she must have been in a great mood for characterization, because in both The Secret of Chimneys and The 7 Dials Mystery, I love the characters in this. And usually I read an Agatha Christie for the plot and just the plot and trying to figure it out. But in both of these books, I love the characters, and that made it a 5-star for me because I do love you know, when you go a little deeper with a character, I enjoy that. So this one was great. I highly recommend the 7 Dials Mystery. You do not have to read these in that order. I just happened to do that because I'm going through this list, and this was the next one on the list. But again, it was fun to do that. So if you haven't read either one of these, I would start with Secret of Chimneys and then go to 7 Dials Mystery. But again, you don't have to do that. This was a great read too. And then I read one that was a complete surprise. And I used this one, I think, on the Summer Book Bingo for friend recommended, because my son recommended this to me. He had read this recently and watched the John Wayne movie of this, the adaptation. And it's True Grit by Charles Portis. I don't read Westerns, so I wasn't sure if I would enjoy this. My son, my 23-year-old, reads a lot of manly kind of books. And I don't read those kind of books. I'm not interested in those. So I wasn't sure. I mean, look at this, you know. It just reads like this is a man's book. And so I just wasn't interested. But he told me, you will like this one. Try it. Well, it is from a girl's perspective. And so I was pleasantly surprised. This is a wonderful book. And it is a classic. And I don't know when this was written. I mean, it's been around a long time. It's about a young girl. And her father is killed. Of course, it is a Western, so it's out west. Her father is killed, and so she wants to avenge his death. And she goes about doing that. But she was one of the best characters I have ever read. What was her name again? Maddie. 14-year-old Maddie. And Maddie is one fascinating character. If you want to read a strong female character, then read True Grit. This was fantastic, and I highly recommend, if you have not read True Grit, to read it. You will be pleasantly surprised, especially if you're like me and you don't read Westerns. This is a great one. So it's made me interested in reading other Westerns. If there's any more like this one, let me know, because I was pleasantly surprised. And I also want to watch the movie adaptation. I know there's a John Wayne, and that's the one my son and husband watched recently because I saw him watching it. I haven't watched that one, and I think there's another one, and I'm not sure which one. Let me know in the comments if you've watched them, and let me know if you've read True Grit too and what you thought about it. This was a great read. I highly recommend it. And then I read Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. Thank you to the BookTube Besties for sending me this copy. It was wonderful. This is a book that I would call tragically beautiful. It is a beautiful story, but if you look at the cover, it is on the they're in wagons and they're headed out west, and the harsh realities of the westward expansion and how hard that was for these people who were trying to move, as well as all of the Native Americans in the area and their struggle to survive as well. All of that is dealt with in the story. This story is about a young girl who has recently been widowed, and she is traveling in a wagon with some other families out west to try to find a better future with her mother and father and the rest of their family. Along the way, she meets this man, John, who is half Pony. I think that's how you say it, Pony. And so he is struggling with his own identity between these two different people and cultures. So that part is a lot of the story as well. This was a hard read for me, but I really enjoyed this one. A warning, there is the harsh realities of the wagon trail, enemy territory, the things that could happen. There is violence in this. There's not a lot of details of it, but you know what's happening, and it just is heartbreaking. So be aware that there are some hard things that happen in the story, and they will break your heart. So I was crying by the end of this one. I thought this was a great read. I gave it 4 stars. And I look forward to reading more Amy Harmon. Again, thank you to the BookTube Besties for sending me this copy. So those are the books that I read this past month, during the month of August. I read other books at the beginning of August, but I've already shared those in weekly updates, so I'll try to remember to leave links to those below. Some other favorite things, though. If you follow my channel, you know that I've been trying to watch some Jimmy Stewart movies with my son, and I had picked up at a McKay's when I was in Nashville. I had picked up a copy of The Shop Around the Corner, and this was so good. I loved this movie. It was great. This one is a story that actually, if you are participating in Chantel's, I think it's called You've Got Mail Readathon. I think that's what it's called. If you're participating in that, you may want to watch this movie, because You've Got Mail is a retelling. It's based on The Shop Around the Corner. So if you love You've Got Mail, as most of us do, you will probably love The Shop Around the Corner too. But anyway, this stars Jimmy Stewart, and it's set at Christmas time, a couple of weeks before Christmas. So this would make a great one to watch at Christmas too, and it ends on Christmas Eve. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It's a lot like You've Got Mail. There are a few differences. One thing that surprised me in this, though, was there is one of the people in here, there's a suicide attempt, and they make light of that. And I don't know if it was how things were handled back in the day. I'm not sure, but it's almost kind of joked about. So that just threw me off, I guess. But that was something totally different, and I think it's from maybe this time period. Let me know if you've watched this and what you thought about that. But anyway, it was a great one, and I'm thankful that my son wants to watch Jimmy Stewart with me, and we're having a great time with that. Then we watched Harvey, because several of you have commented that I should watch The Shop Around the Corner and Harvey. So I watched Harvey too. He already had a copy of Harvey, so we watched that one. That one is lighthearted fun. It's Jimmy Stewart has an imaginary rabbit that's like 6 feet tall or something that goes everywhere with him, and so his family thinks that he's lost his mind. So it's about, again, mental health. I don't know what it is about them taking that lightly. I don't know, but this one had a great message, though, because it's more about not stressing out over things and not worrying about, the materialistic part of life and making, keeping up with the Joneses and trying to be this important figure when you need to be stopping and building good relationships and listening to people. So I really like the message of that one. Again, it's just lighthearted fun. It was actually not that long at all, maybe an hour long, but it's fun too. So I enjoyed both of the Jimmy Stewarts I watched. I also watched All 13. I'm not sure what the name of that one is. If I can remember, again, I'll put that in the description box. But I watched a documentary based on All 13. That was great. And then my other favorite that I watched was Witness for the Prosecution by Agatha Christie. I watched a movie adaptation. I think it was like 2 hours long. Now, I read the short story, so they definitely expanded that story. But it is the story. It's just in the middle of all these other things. But I found it to be great. A lot of times when I read something and then I watch the adaptation, it's never as good. But I thought they did great with Witness for the Prosecution. I can't remember what year that was made. Maybe it was from the 50s. I'm not sure. I will leave a link or put something up here about that too, in case you want to watch it. If you have not read Witness for the Prosecution, go find that short story, read it, and then watch that adaptation. And I think if you enjoy Agatha Christie, you will enjoy that as well. So those are the things that I have been reading and some of my favorite things. My favorite things were receiving book mail. I've never received these surprise packages for book mail before, so I was excited about that. The BookTube Besties, Amy, one of my viewers, sent me a couple of books, And then Miriam sent me the puzzle. So of course that was some favorite things for the month of August. So what were some of the things that you have read over the past few weeks that you've enjoyed that you could share with us too, that we might pick it up as well? Leave that in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.